Hello, and welcome back to The Director's Cut, brought to you by the Directors Guild of America. In honor of the 73rd Annual DGA Awards, we're bringing back our annual series of episodes devoted to our popular Meet the Nominees Theatrical Feature Film Symposium. The event, which celebrated its 30th anniversary this year, is a roundtable discussion with the directors nominated for the Guild's Award for Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Theatrical Feature Film. This year's nominees include Isaac Chung, the director of Minari, Emerald Fennell, the director of Promising Young Woman, David Fincher, the director of Mank, Aaron Sorkin, the director of The Trial of the Chicago 7, and Chloé Zhao, the director of Nomadland. These talented directors gathered on April 10th to discuss the craft of directing and the making of their films with moderator Jeremy Kagan in front of our virtual audience. So please enjoy part 2 of our Meet the Nominees special, and listen to the 5 nominees share their thoughts on actors, tailoring the right approach to an actor's working style, the importance of establishing confidence in their key collaborators, and readjusting performance to fit the film.
Let's talk about redirection. And Em, I'm going to ask you first again, if you don't mind. In terms of when you had to, or when you wanted to, give a note to your actor, what would you do? How would you get that performance changed if you needed to? Now, look, I mean, obviously you're working with some absolutely wonderful actors in your movie. So that may not have been a problem, but there may have been adjustments. And because that's something that we all face as directors, how to adjust the performance so it becomes what it is that we think is going to be the most honest and powerful. We need to be able to deal with this. So for Em, if there are any specifics that you remember where you needed to readjust and how you did it.
I mean, I think it really depends on the actor you're working with, because they all respond pretty differently to different kind of leads. But I mean, firstly, Carrie, who is in kind of 90% of the movie, is so intuitive that it's kind of, she needs very little. Often it was just a matter of pushing her to do kind of more in funny ways. She's so naturally understated, and but really, usually, I think if you want something, it's not necessarily a performance thing. It's usually the kind of why are you asking the thing that you're asking as a director? Why do you need that thing? So the moment that I'm thinking of specifically is in the first time Cassie is taken home by this guy called Jerry, who was played by Adam Brody. It was really important to me that he wasn't skeezy, which obviously is kind of a slight contradiction when he's trying to seduce a alcoholically drunk woman. But it was important that it felt like a romance from his side. So, all of the direction there was kind of counterintuitive. It was like, be gentle, be tender. The more tender you are, the more you think that this is romantic, the more you believe when you kiss her, it's the most romantic kiss in the world. That's what makes this scene chilling. Not chilling if you're just a skis getting your end away however you can. And I think for me, it's always about what do we think we're doing? As much as what are we doing? What do we think we're doing? If we think we're a hero and that goes against what's happening in the script, play the hero. That's usually what, and it's giving permission as well. I think partly just more generally for people to pick up. I usually will want a take that is just, not playful, so right, but kind of, somebody needs to kick over some. There was a bit that happened in rehearsal that sadly we didn't catch, but there's a scene where the character of Ryan, who's played by Bo Burnham, is sort of, for the first time in his life, sort of contradicted or caught doing something. And Bo, instinctively, I sort of said, I think something along the lines of, "You're a little boy. You've just been scolded, and you're a little boy. Like, what are you going to do?" This grown man in a doctor's jacket, he's in the middle of the scene when he didn't get what he wanted, he just kicked his desk, in the most gloriously petulant way. And actually in the end, it was too much. But that's the kind of thing you want. You want the moments where you let yourself, I want to see the moments where we let ourselves down and we are transparent and we are kind of pathetic. That's what I suppose I'm interested, or certainly I was interested in this film. So actors want to be sexy. They want to be villainous, but in a specific way. They don't want to be weak and needy and all of the things that we are really. So it's getting everyone feeling comfortable enough to be their most pathetic.
But I'm at being an actress yourself and having been directed, and the question then becomes what's effective. And of course, everybody's different, so you're going to use different language and different intentions depending on how you're going to do this. But sometimes if you're asking be pathetic, a result may be exaggerated and not happen. So I don't think that's what you're speaking to.
No, so absolutely not. So I think the thing is that, well, it's sort of again what Isaac said about eat the food. If I know what I want is someone to be pathetic, what then the direction is play the romantic hero here. Do the sexiest, tenderest kiss, because don't worry about the fact that she's not responding, that she's doing nothing. Because the more that kiss is romantic in your head, the more repellent it is to us as an audience.
But there's an interesting thing, and I really want you to talk to this for a second, because do you want your actor to know that by what he or she's doing, it's going to have this result, meaning it's going to be pathetic and repulsive, or do you want the actor to only commit to the idea, which is, romancer? And so, the awareness level of an actor in terms of the effect it's going to have on, quote, an audience versus the awareness level of an actor in the midst of a scene doing something as the character they're playing. That's sort of why I'm exploring this.
Yeah, I see. No, I mean, I'm not trying to trick anyone. These people know who they're playing. It's just, I think that often actors rightly are very, they're looking at the text and they know more than the character knows always. And so it's trying to get them back to the place of being the person. It's trying to get them back to where the audience is. If we don't know anything yet, we don't know who this person is. So what I'm always trying to do is take context away from the actor, not by kind of misleading them, but by saying, don't forget here that in this moment you're good. You think you're a good person. You're not playing a villain. It's sort of that thing. I would never deliberately, at least, try and kind of with someone to get.
Got it. The issue of sort of playing, and this happens in a couple of the movies we're seeing here, the issue of playing drunk, and how drunk. How did you and Carrie get to, and obviously she's playing drunk at certain times, but what was the either rehearsal process, if you had one, or the discussion process that got you what you wanted there?
Well, I think the first thing, again, it's such an unusual thing because Carrie, she was really nervous about it because I think it is famously something that can be so bogus so quickly. But the great thing is that Cassie is pretending. So it doesn't matter if it feels phony, which I think gave her a bit of freedom. It meant that she didn't have to be quite so meticulous because actually underneath everything, she is completely sober. And so that kind of, I think, gives her some power to, to be a little bit more, I don't know, messy than I think probably Carrie actually would be. But Alison Brie, who plays Madison, and she's just brilliant. But it's just about the context too. It's about making sure that she's got a red wine now. It's little things that those kind of details that sort of I think really help you when you're an actor, when you kind of, you can kind of taste it and it's a little bit sweet, but yeah.
When she knocks down that glass of wine, do you remember how that evolved? Because that is sort of an expression of, because some of us have been there at a certain point, you do knock down the glass of wine because you are that inebriated. Can you talk about that process of that scene?
Yes, I mean, it's sort of quite difficult for stuff like that because, of course, it is fairly thudding visual metaphor of the red spilling over. But so it kind of had to be very specifically placed. And I remember because we only had 2 tablecloths because we were working quite a tight budget. And so, you just, it's kind of what Aaron said, don't anticipate that it's going to go a certain place. Just do a big gesture. And if you hit the one this time, great. If you don't, we'll do it again. I mean, it's so difficult. These kind of conversations are so complicated because I think so much of you conflates what you wish you'd done, the kind of director you hope you are, and the actual truth. And I'm not sure, when it comes to like being precise about those particular moments, I'm never quite sure exactly how it was done.
Got it. Do you remember the scene with how Alfred Molina scene was done? Is the scene with the lawyer who is asking for forgiveness. I mean, that seems to be what the scene is. And I found it quite remarkable, and I'm interested if you remember if you needed to do anything with these 2 fine actors, what adjustments you may or may not have done, including the physicality, because there's a real physicality. I mean, and I don't know if that was written in the script that he's going to get on his knees and he's going to almost put his head in her lap, or whether that evolved in rehearsal. But if you remember, share it with us.
Yeah, so I think, well, actually, that was probably the most, like, allegorical scene of the whole film and the most sort of overtly biblical, maybe. And so the thing I did do with Alfred and Carrie was I'd showed them Michelangelo's Pieta at the beginning and said, I need you to get here at the end. And they both kind of said, fuck you. It's so counterintuitive. No actor wants to get it. It's so much. It's so kind of overblown and overwrought. But the scene, this is a scene about 2 people who are mad, who have gone mad on different sides of the same, in the same kind of way. So you feel kind of over the top in a way. But the thing that I think was helpful was that he's frightening. He's physically an imposing person. Again, we as an audience don't know what he's going to do. And she doesn't know. And it was important that we felt him getting closer to her. And that part of the forgiveness that she gives him was that she's disgusted by his proximity, but she needs him to get away from her. And his groveling is so kind of touching, but also repellent that it's, I didn't feel like we were going to get to a place of forgiveness with them sitting kind of politely apart from each other.
So would you have rehearsed this scene before you started shooting it? And would you have also said, literally, in terms of technically, that obviously showing Michelangelo piece, they are together, of course, Christ and his mom. Would you have literally sort of said, I want you to do, and again, we're delving into the specific if you can, and if you remember, just because that we're learning from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we very rarely rehearse. We except, a couple of times we didn't really have time. For this, it took a while to make that feel for I think everyone to kind of get on the same page as to why it was happening. And that the discomfort was kind of crucial, rather than sometimes you find with actors, they feel uncomfortable when they don't want to do, not because it's not right, but just because they don't want to do it. And you're always trying to work out, like, are they trying to protect themselves or are they right? You kind of have to make that thing sometimes. But I knew with this, in this case, what I needed, and we needed to rehearse it a few times so that they kind of understood. Not that it ever felt comfortable, but that they understood what it was for. And so, yes, that was kind of probably the most rehearsed scenes that we had.
Got it. And the physical action itself, did you say to them or to Alfred, I want you to get on your knees and put your hand on
them? Oh, yeah. I showed them.
So it's very specific.
Very specific. I showed them the picture. I said, you need to be on your knees. You need to be begging for forgiveness in every conceivable way.
Did you say a word like, because sometimes when we're talking about this process, we talk about, active verbs and acting teachers teach that, etc. Did you say something like to her, push him away? Or would you what kind of language might you use?
I wouldn't probably have been that prescriptive about the actual action. Usually it's like the note in a scene like that would probably be like, what if he's going to hurt you? Look how big he is. Look how close he's getting. What if when he touches you, what's he going to do? I think that's the thing. Again, it's that like always remembering that, you know, what are you doing when you're a young woman in a strange man's house and he's not well? And you know all the things you know about the way that the dynamics between men and women work. It's it's that stuff. I'm not generally a person who would go in and say that I'd want to remind someone why they would be frightened.
Got it. The given circumstances of this scene and presence, like Chloé was talking about earlier. David, you also had to deal with characters, but one character being drunk. And that issue. What did you discover? Or how did you discover the very?
I had Gary Oldman, so we talked about the degree of sloppiness. Obviously, Herman was, he had vomited at people's homes before, so he's taken inebriation and his comfort in it to levels that very few of us have experienced before. But the biggest thing was to make sure that in all of this that the writer comes through, right? Because as inebriated as Herman gets, he's making a point, and so you're adjusting the elocution so that you can make sure that you can still hear his reason for rising and getting everyone's attention. It was a degree. I shot a few takes, so we would kind of dial it back in, and I would say, this is wonderful what's happening over here, but right in here, I can't hear a word you're saying. So, and he would, okay. And that was really it, He's had some experience with this, and so he knew he could modulate it and say, this is half a bottle of vodka in. It was like, yeah. It was like, okay.
When you say, for example, that last scene, which around the table where he essentially tells the story, I don't know if that's his most excessive one. But because of what you just said, and because you do a lot of takes and have explained why, which makes sense. Yeah. It's a style that gets the actor almost into a habit of release in a way. And the question here is, were you able to do that with this, or because it is a sort of excessive performance moment?
Yeah, I didn't change it up. I didn't change it up. Forget, it in the end, we shot that scene for 4 days. And so there's probably 32 camera setups, and we probably did some in the neighborhood of 12 to 16 takes per setup. It was almost a good part of a week. So, in the end, and I think that the aspect of the takes thing becomes, front and center. It's really, for my money, how quickly you get to the next take and how quickly you can dispense with thoughts and musings on what it is that you've just seen. So what I really sort of resist is this idea of the actor now going and processing it. That's why I don't like slates. I don't like putting something on somebody's face and making noise. I just want to go. And so we will do a 9-minute take, and then his shirt will get tucked in and his tie and his hair will be combed, and he'll sit back down, and we're rolling, 8 seconds later and starting all over again. So
might have you, in that moment of his shirt going in, given him, or what would you, if you did, give him any adjustment between those?
It would be myriad. It could be 15, 20 things. I might walk in and walk him back to his chair and say, the beginning third is really good. Remember that you're saying this. This is just between you and Louis. You were saying this just as, a stick for him. Don't look at Charles for until you get to this. You're auditioning this idea. It's still, you're not quite comfortable in it. This is more about Louis. See Marion, be in that moment, have some, and I'll give him, I like doing this. I like to inundate actors with a lot of things to think about and then quickly just go again so that they are not reeling. It's just, I find that the things that when people recognize something that they go, oh, I would like to take ownership of that, it sticks. And the stuff that they go, oh my God, this is such bullshit, that tends to fall off the edge of the table.
By the way, when you're shooting, are there times where you will not cut or just keep the camera rolling? So that obviously in digital it isn't expensive unless you're shooting film. Will you, because of the repeatedness, just keep without even saying cut?
There's a famous technique that Frank Capra used to use, and it was because he was only allowed to print 2 takes, and so he used to do this thing where he would keep the cameras rolling and say, okay, start over, and everybody would go, and this is the way that he could get 4 or 5 take over the 2 that he was allowed to print. And what he found was that it immediately hyped the actors, immediately, like the energy level rose because nobody wanted to be caught out with their stuff not in the right pocket and going in and out of the door and making sure you have your coat over that there was this, an energizing technique. It was the panic ended up being kind of this, in a weird way, the style of the 30s was like, this like, say your lines, don't knock over the furniture. Let's, circle that one. Let's move on. And it's interesting how that, I don't find that it's that technique of, all right, let's go again, keep it rolling, everybody back to 1. I don't find that to work usually for the first third, because you do get these sort of elevated anxiety of people rushing through the door like, there's a fire in the next room. But, by the time you get to the end, this is all psychology, and all of your palette will change depending on the personality types that you're dealing with. There are certain actors can hear, yeah, that was all, but I'm really only interested in this, and they can focus on that. And sometimes, I mean, and to Emerald's point, it's not about deceiving them, but it's about knowing what their threshold is for new thoughts on subtext or new thoughts on, and you can inundate people, and people do go into vapor lock. And so you don't want that. And I have found, a very useful, not trick, but a useful technique is if you really want an actor to focus on this one little moment in the text and you draw their attention to it, you may be doing yourself a disservice because that may be the cause of their sort of creative constipation, is that there's too much. So I find often you can, if you really, really want to get the end right, give them 12 notes about the first 3 lines. And once they get through those first 3 lines, there's like this sort of like release. And then you find that the middle and the end just, are like water off the back of a duck. And you just go, great, we're moving on. And I don't recommend that you
do that. Actually, it's very smart. I like it. Chloé, let me ask you, thank you, David. Chloé, in terms of getting Fran to do, there are a number of wonderful moments, obviously, where she is listening and responding. And I'm interested in the conversations you had with her about particular ones, either where you either quote rehearse them, or how would you readjust if you wanted Fran to do something different?
I have learned the word final check in a hard way. That word really, I still have nightmares about it, because I think what David was saying earlier about having give your notes, but as quick as you can get back into it before they start to, and then sometimes you get them there and then the final check comes in. And when there's a lot, and then you go, oh man, like, cause they're completely now aware, that obviously that's not what I did on Nomadland, but it's just something that I've learned. So I guess as little as that is possible, whether you're in the middle of nowhere or on a stage, that you could keep the actor be in their body, then aware of things, So I know that a lot of people asked David about the makeup for
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I really glad you didn't do that because Gary, because there's something about, I'm not getting into it. And so with Fran is that we wanted nothing between her and the camera. And when we had the ability to work that way, my work is more than half, like 80% done. Because she is present in this moment, she's listening, and the lens is very sharp and is very close to her face. We're going to capture and also amplify as much as emotion she gives us as possible. Occasionally with Fran, really just about going in and go 50, give me like 4 different options, 25%, 50, and 75. And she would do those like a pro, and we'll decide.
That's my favorite direction. You go to an actor and you say, just 11% less.
Yeah.
So, but with things like Fran's looking at those photographs, which I assume of her past, which we don't really know.
Yeah.
What did you discuss with her? What did she know? Obviously, who these people were that she's looking at, and what you wanted her to respond to just by looking at them. I'm interested in something like that in terms of if you needed to adjust her performance, or how you just got in conversation about how she's going to look at her past.
No, not so much. When you set up the situation, also a lot of that is like where she is, what's the lighting like, what's the time of the day, where's the camera, all that to me is equally as important as adjusting the actor in that moment, because the audience is going to have to feel that, through a small frame. And I, a lot of my attention goes into these things. And then again, it's very important for me to have an actor that fits the roles perfectly. I think my hands might be a little tight if I miscast, because I'm not that type of. I would love to do theater just to learn. I would love to direct a play just to learn how to rehearse, how to work with actors in that way, to get better. But that's not naturally. I'm not like that. So I really expect whether my non-actors or a professional actor to come in having done their own homework and done their own exploration, and then just show me. And then if it's so off, I will make adjustments. But I find that
were there any moments in this that you remember where it, quote, was so off and you did have to make an adjustment?
Yeah, there are definitely a few times, but then you sort of go in there and you go, just try something completely different. Sometimes I will even just give direction. Just try something completely different. Show me what else you got. And not with the non-professional actors. They look at me like, what do you want me to do? Just try something different. Or like, again, it's like less. Just even less. Again, I'm matching as well. I'm matching the two different school of different, matching someone just being themselves, and then someone coming from a different school of performance. And less. How about nothing? Give me nothing. And then see how that is. And occasionally I'll go nothing, but nothing. And then, oh, that's pretty good. But again, I'm not 100% sure until I'm in the editing.
Got it. And you're editing all the time. But here's when you had David and Fran working together. Now, these are two very, very experienced actors, and yet you want the style of their performance to equal the style of all of your non-professionals. What, for example, in their scenes, what did you three talk about or discuss or do in order to get that similar reality?
The three of us knew we had to do extra work in order to match. We would occasionally I would tell them to throw the script out, or like do it at the end. Like eventually get into it, just start doing just talk about stuff. I don't even tell them what it is. Just say, someone say something. And then they just start to talk, and then occasionally, and they're pros, occasionally they would sneak a line in and then start. It does help, and they help each other out as well in that way. When the trust is built from the beginning, and the goal is to become as naturalistic, and it doesn't feel like things are too written because of what a non-professional actor is going to do. The effort is made towards that, and they provoke each other as well. They try to get each other there. So that was.
Did they ever sort of talk to you about, I don't know if I can do that, or was that ever I see for Fran it wasn't, but I'm just curious for David, did he ever say, wait a minute, where do you want me here in terms of the performance I'm going to give, or what kind of conversation did he have with you?
Oh, yeah, no, neither of them ever said like, oh, I can't do that, because it's really about, I think it's about doing less. So you can definitely do less. Sometimes you might not be able to do more, but do less is, and occasionally, I mean, with David it's never an issue, but with Fran, we had to look up for a boundary because so much of her personal life is in this film. And she would actually have said, there's a lot more of my personal life in here that you don't even know that I have to, that's in there that she gave to the film. And I think for me and her is to find that balance to make sure she's not too vulnerably exposed. Because one thing I have learned so much from Fran about, and I really have to keep learning this, is that for actors, they do need some security. They do need, it's not like the non-professional actor who choose to, I want to share my life with you. The reason why they want to put on the costume, do something, sometimes they don't want to share themselves on screen. And I'm fully expecting them to, because I've only worked with the other way. So I have to learn how to make the professional actor willing to give me what I want to a certain degree, but also knowing that I can trust them to not have to open themselves up that still give me the same performance. That trust I'm building, because I was like, no, you got to give me you. But now that's not always true. I have learned.
Oh, wow. Isaac, for you, readjusting, and particularly dealing with the kids. Thank you, Chloé. What and how would you readjust and get performance? So when we saw that example, obviously with the chest, but speak to that in terms of other examples where if you needed to readjust, what you would do, and maybe both with adults and the kids, but particularly with the kids because of I think the remarkable performances that you got. So how would you adjust?
Thanks. It really depended scene by scene. So each scene had a different approach and different strategy. I mean, there were moments, I think it's kind of similar to what Chloe's saying, because they are first time actors, these kids. So a lot of times with them, I'm just looking for the most authentic, part of themselves that they can bring within any given moment. For instance, one of the key scenes is them reacting to the parents fighting. And I noticed that, they're throwing paper airplanes in that scene. So they just started to have a really good time with it. Because, kids throwing paper airplanes, they're going to start to smile. And that was kind of wrecking the reaction shots. And I remember for that one, I did have to be very stern and start to put on a whole different face with them, that was on a more intimidating level, I guess. And, so there are moments that I have to create that atmosphere. That makes me sound like a tyrant. I mean, there are other moments that aren't like that. If moments of fun, we try to make sure that the set is fun and that, they're going to have a good time in a certain moment. So I felt like that environmental element was really important. But there are also a lot of scenes where these kids were just phenomenal without much direction at all, in which they just knew what they needed to do. So I don't want to make it seem like it's all smoke and mirrors and that I'm just tricking them the whole time. But they're really talented kids. With the adults, it's more or less, everybody has said it already. Like everybody is different. And, I find the rehearsal process to be important to figure out to learn.
How do you use a rehearsal process?
I try to make sure to talk throughout it, so that I create some kind of I don't let them fully get into the scene, so that part of it, they're still working it out mentally. That's what I tend to do. And so I try to make it a little bit, I don't get quiet and let them do it. I just say, yes, okay. And I talk through it, so that I can try to preserve when the cameras are rolling that first time that they're doing it. And I notice each actor has a very different thing that helps them if I need to make adjustments. Often it's great, and there's not much of an adjustment to be made, and it might be just a technical thing. I try to let them know quickly if it's only a technical issue that we need to resolve, and I try to let them know so that they can stay within the comfort and confidence of what they've just done. But if something needs to be adjusted, then it's really according to them. Like for Yunya Jung, who plays the grandmother, she doesn't like to talk about motivations, and she doesn't like to talk about psychology and all that. She'll just say, are you asking me to just be quieter? And I say, yeah. She said, okay, just tell me to be quieter. And she'll do it. She'll nail it. And she's really great at it. And then there'll be other actors who want to go into the reasoning, like what is the reason why I'm being quieter? So I just try to meet them where they are.
Got it. In scenes like that, I'm going to move on a little bit to camera. But in the scene where there's the fight between, literally you film one of the fights between the husband and wife, and in fact your camera, goes back and forth between the two of them. The performance moment of getting those two actors to be where you wanted them to be. Do you remember any adjustments that you made with them in that particular scene?
That one, there wasn't too much I remember having to make sure that the set is completely focused for that day, and that I could see how much preparation the actors were doing with that one. So even like final checks and all that stuff, we definitely pared down as much as possible, and we made sure to clear the set more with that scene, just to give them the concentration. I don't remember too many adjustments with that scene in itself. It was really with the kids. But the two adults, I was afraid that they're going to lose their voices, because I kind of told them this is a scene in which you're really not holding anything back. So I knew we couldn't do too many takes, and they lost their voices with that scene.
Let me ask you one more performance thing, and then I want to talk about camera. The performance thing is a shot on Grandma, her last shot. Do you remember what you said? She says no.
Yeah. Okay, so that one was great because we all set it up, and I wasn't talking to YJ much about that scene. But right before the cameras rolled, I just went up to her and I said, I just need something mysterious. And we shot it, and she did the exact look, everything, just as you see it. And then as soon as I said cut, she just turned to me and said, "Mysterious enough for you?" And it was great.
Did you just coming off of what Em said earlier about the sort of the thinking about what's going on? Did you ever ask her what was the mysterious for you, or did you ever find out?
I never found out. I mean, we talked about the scene a little bit. She only asked me once, like, "Do you want me to cry in it?" And I said, I think that would be too much. And so that was the only kind of note we had during the script phase, because during the script phase, we kind of talked about different moments. So she had notes on that scene. I knew she was preparing for it. Right. And I just added that one note right then.
It's interesting though, because if in that scene, her eyes are wet by the time you cut.
Yeah.
So, clearly she didn't take your direction. She did mysterious.
Well, she didn't. I mean, that's the thing. She didn't never let it come down, which is I did a hell of a job with that. She still got what she wanted, and I got what I wanted. So
no question about it. It's fine. It's a great moment in the movie. And I want to talk a little bit about camera with you. There's a wonderful shot where it's pretty much introducing all the characters in the courtroom. It almost goes a sort of 180 degrees. I think it starts on Ferran and Schultz and then moves through the table to sort of reveal all of your defendants. And I'm interested, because I know that because you've spoken to this about this, learning how to figure out how to shoot with camera or cameras, sort of an action scene. But setting something like that up, do you remember, was this something that you preconceived, something that you talked with your camera person about? Speak to how you were working with camera, and like that shot specifically.
Yeah, that's shot specifically. We're being introduced to the courtroom, and its participants. And, I had staged most of it on a piece of paper, and staged a little bit more of it, when we got into the courtroom, on the day. Basically, I wanted to see how long I could do a continuous shot. So it was a matter of starting on J.C. Mackenzie, who was playing Joseph Gordon-Levitt's boss. He's just sitting there. Everybody's waiting for the trial to start. Everybody's waiting for the all rise moment. He leaves the frame, revealing Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Who stands up, and from there the camera is able to move to Fred Hampton and his guys coming down, or move along the defendants. I decided the moment where, okay, we can sort of release from this shot now and move on. But that was a choreographed move. If you don't mind, I just wanted to. I know you wanted to move on to camera, but I just wanted to address giving adjustments to actors, because I once had a very bad experience that I try to learn from. And I wasn't the director of the film. I'd written the film. I was working with another director. We were in rehearsal, and the director had called a meeting. He wanted to meet with an actor before the morning's rehearsal, and he wanted me there. And first of all, it was already a powder keg that was set to explode at some point, because this actor, through a bizarre set of circumstances, was aware that he was not my first choice for the role. So he went into that kind of wary of me. And we had this meeting. The director said what he wanted to say, then turned to me and he said, "Aaron, you want to add something?" And so I just wanted to add something very simple. In so many roles, confidence is incredibly important. The actor being confident, being able to really own the ground under their feet is incredibly important. And so it was as it was with this role. And what I said was, this guy's a movie star. I think what the actor heard me say was, I wish we had a movie star playing this role. And the actor tore up the rehearsal room, literally, pulled things off the wall, smashed them. And it was nightmarish. And I never want another experience where I lose the actor. I don't want anyone locking themselves in their trailer, or just kind of closing themselves up on the set, because in trying to give them confidence, I've taken away all their confidence. Yeah. So I'm careful about the way I give notes.
Got it. Would you say, Aaron, that when you're saying that the note is more encouraging, even if you want something changed, as distinguished from critical? I'm using words.
I would say, first of all, the more specific the note can be, the better. Second, you have to make sure that you're not asking the actor to do something that they can't do. That you're not asking them to speak a foreign language. Be funnier is a bad note.
Agreed.
Right? So it's, again, you want to be giving them confidence, and if you can give them something specific. You'll also, you learn, actors are all different, right? They all need and want a different thing. And so you learn, with different actors. Here's what you say to this one, and here's what you say to this one.
This may also refer to both performance as well as camera. There's a night sequence where I think you move past Abby and then pick up Tom Hayden and Rennie as they're walking, and you track back with it. And it's a big night setup because you've got a lot of people there. Do you remember? And this is also, I think, a one that as I said, finds Abby and then discovers Tom and Rennie and moves back with them. Do you remember setting that one up? Because that also, lights, night, all the rest. How did that one evolve, if you remember?
Sorry, I was saying that that scene that you're describing, those were exciting nights. We shot those scenes in Chicago, in Grant Park, and on Michigan Avenue, where they took place. And I remember choreographing them, and choreographing the camera moves, always, in concert with Fade and Pop and Michael, our DP.
Got it.
And using, I hate to be glib about this, but, because there was so much tear gas used in Chicago in 1968, it was a lucky break for me, because we got to use a lot of smoke, which looks nice when you shoot light through it. And we got to use a few hundred extras to play thousands of people, because I could mask things with smoke.
Yeah.
Tear gas is often overlooked as something that can tell
as a tool in filmmaking.
It makes it a lot easier.
Remember this.
I mean, you say that now, David, but how many times did I ask you to use tear gas for social
trailer? Tear gas.
Imagine tear gas.
We hope you enjoyed listening to part 2 of this exclusive discussion. You can watch the full video of the Theatrical Feature Film Symposium on our website at dga.org/events. And be sure to download next week's episode, where our 5 theatrical feature film nominees will conclude their conversation. Past episodes of The Director's Cut are available wherever you listen to podcasts, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'd love to hear your feedback, and you can help fellow film buffs find the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. This podcast is produced by the Directors Guild of America. Music is by Dan Wally.